Welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and today we continue to look at the Idaho 4 case. This was a quadruple homicide that occurred on November 13th, 2022, between 3 and 4 a.m. 4 students were murdered, 2 were unharmed, and the dog, a Labradoodle called Murphy, was also unharmed. The victims are Zaina and Ethan, a couple, both 20 years old, and Maddie and Kaylee, 2 girls, 21 years old, all attending the University of Idaho. Before I get into my presentation, let me first read you what the City of Moscow Police Department has said about some of these murders that I have on the screen here. They say in their latest update there have been numerous media inquiries about a 1999 double stabbing in Pullman, Washington, and the 2021 double stabbing with 1 death, so the lady survived, in Salem, Oregon. While these cases share similarities with the King Street homicides, there does not appear to be any evidence to support that the cases are related. So that's what police are saying, that the double stabbing and the couple that was stabbed with the woman surviving appear to not be related. The only problem is that there's this other stabbing too, which then makes it more interesting to consider any connections and who knows which others we don't know about. So let's have a look at this quickly. So in Pullman, Oregon, on Tuesday, May 25th, 1999, a 24 and 26-year-old woman were stabbed in the back of the head and chest. They were sleeping, and it happened just before 3 a.m. They found 2 knives with plastic handles that were recovered, and the assailant is believed to be an Asian male, 5 foot tall, 110 to 120 pounds. So from my understanding, the woman was stabbed but survived, and that is probably how they came up with this profile. They may have obviously seen him. Then we have a case from Saturday, June 13th, 2020. Sandra Ladd, 70 years old, mother of 4, from Washougal, Washington, an admin assistant in the school district, was stabbed in the torso while she was in her bed. So that was also in the early hours of the morning, and that was on, as I say, June 13th. Then, the couple in Oregon, Travis and Jamelin Jutton, they were stabbed in the early hours of the morning in their beds on Friday, August 13th, 2021, around 3 a.m., and Jamelin survived. And then, of course, we've got the Idaho 4 murders. This happened on Sunday, November 13th, 2022, between 3 and 4 a.m., 4 students were stabbed while in bed. So if you even just look at the last 3 that I put up there, all stabbed while in their beds, somewhere around 3 to 4 in the morning, and then all of them happening on the 13th as well. So I still find that quite interesting. I know that the police are often very cautious, of course, naturally, to link cases like that, because the mass panic that could happen then, because this would then confirm that there's a serial killer on the loose. Normally, they don't want people to be scared to that level. Everyone's already scared enough. Now, could they be linked? Maybe. Maybe they aren't linked at all. Either way, it's interesting to look at. One thing I also wanted to mention was that in February this year, 2022, so February 27th, the Sunday, 2022, a student at the University of Idaho passed away. Now, they've never said how. Her roommate has shared some stuff on Twitter, which implies that it's not just passing away. And she's saying that the police are covering this up. I have no idea why they would do that, especially at that time. And that she speculates, I'm not going to say her name or anything, but she speculates that someone has been operating in Moscow for a while. Now, her name was Hannah Clear. I watched her funeral, which is available on her obituary site, just to see if any of her family members expressed any anger for how her life may have been taken, but no one did. They just focused on the memory of Hannah. Now, I just think it's interesting because it was also, she passed away in her bed, is how they say it. It was on a Sunday in the early hours of the morning. So that wasn't the 13th. I just find it interesting that that was also a student at the University of Idaho. She also worked in the library, and she had received a scholarship. She was incredibly bright. So that one we can just pin in our minds for now, in case later it comes up as being linked to anything. I literally cannot find a death certificate for her, cause of death, anything like that. But she was only 21 years old, so she passed away at a very young age while studying at the University of Idaho. Now, see, there's still a lot of questions about why the police say that this was a targeted attack. Initially, they said this could be a burglary gone wrong or a crime of passion. Either way, they're still sticking with a targeted attack, which seems to have a lot of people baffled, like, why would they say it's targeted? To me, the simplest answer is because there were 6 people in the house and a dog, and 2 people and the dog were unharmed, and 4 people were brutally murdered. So I think that alone, just logically, is how they would say targeted attack. Because if it was just some absolutely reckless, without a plan maniac, they probably would have killed everyone and the dog. I know that we don't know why they spared the 2 roommates and the dog. Maybe something happened, they ran out of time, they got tired, I don't know. So there's still lots of possibilities on the table. I'm just thinking that the language they're using of targeted attack is because 4 people were killed, 2 were unharmed, and the dog survived. And also, the fact that they initially said burglary gone wrong makes me think of the behavior that we so often see with peeping toms, otherwise known as voyeurs, which I'm going to get a little bit more into in this video. Okay, so as always, I like to make kind of like a mind map. I usually do this for myself, and I'm sharing it with you. So if you don't agree with this at all, no problem. I'm just sharing what I've been mapping out here in my notebooks of just like, what could the scenarios be? So if they say targeted attack, these are the scenarios I've come up with. Scenario number 1 is they actually had 0 targets and they just wanted to kill people on the floors that they'd been looking at. And we'll look at a picture of that again, because from that wooded area at the back of the house, you can just look into those 4 windows, which would be the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor. But to them, I mean, it looks like the ground floor, because you just go into the sliding door there, and they would then only focus on those floors where Zaina lived and Maddie and Kaylee lived. I mean, Ethan was just staying the night there, so he wouldn't ordinarily have been there. So if they were just focusing on those 3 girls, that would then be what they would be fantasizing about. Or the other 2, the unharmed roommates downstairs on the other side of the house in the more like basement level, maybe they'd lock their doors. Maybe they did intend to go in there and kill everyone, but they couldn't get into the doors of the other 2. That's a possibility. Or the male there, Ethan, ruined this person's fantasy or plan, so then he left. Sometimes one could see that happen with, if you study serial killers or, I mean, I think this person has the potential to be a serial killer. Whether they are one or have the potential to become one, that's debatable. We're yet to find out once they catch this killer. But sometimes they would fantasize for so long about something that suddenly walking in there and seeing, damn, there's a male in the bed, could really throw them off. Maybe they went upstairs and took out the first 2 victims and came back downstairs to their, I'm just saying this speculatively, intended target, and it's like, damn, there's a male in the bed, and then decided to finish the plan but then leave. That's also a possibility. They would leave in a huff and a puff, really angry of like, why did this person have to ruin my fantasy? Which is also why a kill like this implies that this person is, of course, very dangerous. That's obvious, but that they could strike again. So I do understand why so many criminal profilers and former police officers and things are saying that this person is high risk for striking again. Then in scenario 2, we look at, okay, so if this was a target attack, let's say they had 1 target. So this person would have then gone in the house and maybe not known exactly where they were sleeping that night and killed people until they got their target and then left. So in all these scenarios, we're speculating this way and breaking it down to try to understand why the hell a person would target 4 people Or if they were targeting 0 people, why that would happen. If they targeted just 1 person, then why would the other 3 be murdered, and so on. So we're just building this as we go. So if the killer had 1 target, right? Let's say he killed until he reached his target. This is something that Jim Clemente said. Or he killed his target and then killed the other people who would immediately suspect him. So imagine if it was a scenario like, for example, Kaylee mentioning a stalker or saying, this guy really bothers me a lot, something like that. Then if maybe she spoke to those 3 friends or to Maddie and Zaina, maybe this person would be like, I won't have to take them all out, because otherwise the other 2 or 3, that depends on if you include Ethan in this or not, would immediately be able to say, well, it's that guy. He's been bothering her for so long. So that is also a possibility. Then, if we look at scenario 3, the killer had 2 targets. He killed the other 2 due to circumstance. For example, Ethan hearing something and then getting up to investigate. In this scenario, if the killer was, for instance, targeting Maddie and Kaylee, maybe they crossed paths with them at the corner club, at the food truck, something like that, and then went upstairs, murdered Maddie and Kaylee, and then came back downstairs and then encountered Ethan, so then killed him and then had to also kill Zaina. That is a possibility as well. By the way, the coroner has come forward to say it is not accurate that it's being reported that all 4 died in their beds. She's not specifying exactly where they all died, but I remember in the beginning when the news broke, them saying that Ethan was in the hallway or, outside of the room. So that scenario number 3 is pretty plausible to me. And then again, if the killer had 2 targets, maybe he killed the other 2 who would suspect him immediately, which is similar to scenario 2. I have 3 more scenarios for you. Scenario number 4. The killer had 3 out of 6 targets. I say 3 because, Ethan was staying over the night, so 4 people were murdered. Maybe the targets were the 3 girls, meaning Zaina, Maddie, and Kaylee. Why? A fantasy kill, or revenge, or sexually motivated, or a serial killer with a pattern. And by that pattern, I mean the murders we looked at before with the 70-year-old lady. That was 1 victim. And then the couple, 2 intended victims. And now 3 intended victims, if you know what I mean. There'll be 1, 2, 3, all happening on the 13th at some point in the year. And then I put there in brackets plus the boyfriend by circumstance, because if they went into Zaina's room and didn't really expect to see Ethan there, then they would have targeted Ethan first in that room, because of course it's another male. It's an athletic, strong, relatively tall male, so they would have to take him out as well if they are trying to get to Zaina. Then in scenario number 5, the killer had 4 out of 6 targets. By that I mean Maddie, Kaylee, Zaina, and Ethan. If that was the case, if he literally targeted, he or she or they, literally targeted those 4 people, why would someone do that? Either it's a fantasy kill, or revenge, or it's sexually motivated, or they all knew him and he felt slighted by them in some way. Or he was projecting some form of trauma, like maybe, what I mean by that is, if this person was bullied as a kid by people that look similar to these 4, if you know what I mean. That's very unlikely in this case, but I'm putting it as a scenario in case. Sometimes you will see with killers or serial killers, they will be projecting their own trauma onto their victims. So maybe they saw this group of 4 as very successful, very beautiful people, and they felt, again, the feelings that they may have felt in their childhood or earlier years or even recently. We don't know. And then, finally, scenario 6. The killer had 5 to 6 targets. By that I mean the 5 tenants of the house. I say 5 to 6 because, of course, Ethan was there too. He spared the other 2 because he got tired, or their doors were locked, or he knew that Murphy's barking was starting to get too much. And we also know that he, generally speaking, attacked the victims in their sleep or in their rooms, right? So if he knew that Murphy, let's say if Murphy ran downstairs and was barking from there, from the front door sort of area, maybe he thought that would wake the other two up, so he's just going to leave them be. You know what I mean? So could the killer be a voyeur or peeping Tom? I refer back to this picture because if you are in this wooded area, it's really easy to watch all the girls, to watch all the floors, not the two that are in the basement sort of area, the bottom floor from the front door area. But these 4 windows, as in from the sliding door, there's a window next to it, and the two top windows are really easy to look through from the woods without being spotted, especially at night. So I would say it's a pretty high chance that this person was a peeping Tom or voyeur in the weeks or months before the murders. So what is a voyeur? It's a person who gains sexual pleasure from watching others when they are naked or engaged in sexual activity. Most voyeurs are male, that's why they're called peeping Toms. The female version of that is called a peeping Jane. I think they should be called peeping Poms. Anyway, I digress. A 1991 study found that 42% of college men in a rural sample reported that they had engaged in voyeurism. And that's before Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and all that stuff. There's been a significant rise in voyeurs, they say from around 2013 or so. Also because voyeurs can start digitally for weeks or months first, especially with things like OnlyFans or beautiful Instagram pictures or things like that. This one also found interesting. They say the consumption of and the fascination with distressing images and videos that showcase someone's suffering is referred to as trauma voyeurism, or sometimes contentiously as trauma porn. So that is interesting too, and we've seen a lot of serial killers be into that as well, where they really enjoy content they get off on seeing women in fear. And so if that's the type of content they'd been consuming for quite some time and they were voyeur, things escalate. Things escalate in this. It could make sense that this person would first maybe stalk them digitally, and we'll look into that as well, and then eventually find the house, go to the house, stand outside the house, peep through the windows for a while, maybe even see them undress, maybe see them hooking up with their boyfriends. You just don't know what they've been watching all this time, right? And then one day decide, I'm going in. They also say the frightening thing is that some of these guys, they start with peeping and get comfortable with peeping, then they want to escalate it. They want to maybe break in the home, maybe steal underwear out of the drawer, and then they could escalate beyond that to wanting to touch the person. You see, that becomes interesting when we look back and realize that the police said crime of passion or robbery gone wrong. That would also fit the profile of a voyeur. And I do wonder now, in hindsight, if there had been a robbery reported at that house since the girls had lived there, which is from June 5th, I wonder. Or I wonder if certain items had gone missing. I mean, here they say robbery gone wrong, which means obvious items weren't taken. But I would wonder if any, for example, underwear was taken. If you think of the Delphi case, that killer has a very similar profile as well. And there, in that case, underwear was taken. Former FBI profiler Brad Garrett called Peeping a training ground for serial killers. Examples of voyeurs who then escalated their behavior to become killers, and serial killers at that, would be Joseph DeAngelo, the Golden State Killer, Ted Bundy, Derek Todd Lee, Dennis Rader, BTK, and that's just to name a few. There are so many. Many serial killers continue to watch or troll for victims long after they've started to kill to help them identify potential targets. This covert surveillance helps them learn more about a potential target's habits and develop a strategy to gain entry into the house undetected. If we also think of the layout of the house, and the killer very likely going in through the sliding door. One thing I haven't said yet is that the killer could have gone into Ethan and Zaynab's bedroom and maybe attacked them first, and then gone upstairs and attacked Maddie and Kaylee, and then jumped off that deck You know what I mean? He could have jumped off there because then he would just jump straight back into the woods. And if this person is drunk or high or something like that, which they usually are, then they would feel like the damn Hulk. You know, they would be jumping off that porch, no problem. And I'm sure they'd rather do that than leave bloody shoe prints on the way out or leave a trail, if you know what I mean. Scott Bond says yes, certainly a very, very small subset of all peeping toms are serial killers. But I would say becoming a peeping tom or being a peeping tom is a very logical and natural stage in the progression of a fledgling future serial killer. So this is what I mean, that if the killer started on the second floor and then came upstairs, they could have so easily jumped off this railing, especially around that side, if you know what I mean. Let me fly there. Especially from here. And I don't know if these are actually marks that we're seeing on the railing right there. It does look a little different to the rest of the railing, but I don't know. They could have easily stood there and jumped off into the woods there. There's also a couch right below here. They could have also just jumped onto the couch and then run off into the woods. And then to confirm what I just said about the coroner Kathy Mabert would not provide any further details. She noted, however, that earlier media reports stating all 4 victims had been murdered in their beds was not accurate. So maybe it was, if we speculate, which is what was speculated initially, maybe Ethan, for instance, came out of that room and encountered the killer as he came down the stairs, something like that. And maybe he was the unconscious person reported by the unharmed roommates. And if we quickly look at this, former FBI profiler thinks University of Idaho killer is a young man that students knew. The murderer who ruthlessly slaughtered 4 University of Idaho students is likely a younger man and a first-time killer, famed former FBI profiler Jim Clemente said. Clemente, a criminal behavioral expert and former New York State prosecutor, believes the person who killed Kaylee, Ethan, Zaina, and Maddie on November 13th likely knew at least one of the victims. This is an extremely risky crime for the offender unless he knows one or more of the victims, or he's been stalking one of them, he told the Post on Wednesday. Going into an occupied dwelling with 6 young adults, any of whom could have had a knife or gun or a cell phone to call the police, is extremely risky, unless you know the circumstances inside. The former FBI profiler feels certain the killer is a man and pointed out that they must be comfortable with blood to be able to fatally stab 4 people in quick succession and might be a hunter or could work as a butcher. He doesn't mind the wet work of getting his hands dirty, and his profession will probably say the same thing. Clemente said he believes this was a targeted attack, but the killer may not have known which room exactly the person was going to be in. They may have stopped at 4 victims because they got to their intended victim, he said, noting it likely was not a random attack. Police apparently described the knife-wielding killer as sloppy, and said the aftermath of the murder was the most gruesome scene that they had witnessed. I don't think he's the experienced killer. I don't think this guy's done this before, Clemente said, adding the stabber may have been motivated by revenge or rejection or some kind of insult. Pete Yakmet, a security consultant and former FBI agent, agrees with Clemente. I feel the subject may be a young, unsophisticated person because the crime scene was apparently massive, he told the Post. Going into an occupied home where there were 6 people in different rooms in the middle of the night is pretty dangerous. Police in Moscow, Idaho have yet to name a suspect and have provided conflicting stories about what happened before the murder. They have also been unable to confirm reports that Gonsalves had been stalked. Investigators have looked extensively into information they received about Kaylee Gonsalves having a stalker, the Moscow PD said in an update on the investigation on Tuesday night. They have pursued hundreds of pieces of information related to this topic and have not been able to verify or identify a stalker. Clemente thinks authorities have a lot working against them because, in addition to the offender likely fleeing town after the killing and getting a 9-hour head start before the alarm was raised, students also followed suit out of fear or for the Thanksgiving break. Now, please take this with a giant grain of salt, but Last time, in the episode that I presented to you, we looked at people saying that Maddie's name was searched 10 times on November 7th. So then, myself and one of the Grizzlies who emailed me started looking more into these Google Trends and really how many times each victim's name was Googled, as well as how many times the home was Googled. What I've got here is a custom date range that I've set. You can see it up there, which is from June 5th until November 12th. The reason I've done that is because all these increments, the numbers, 25, 50, 75, and 100, that's not how many times, it's just a unit measurement. So if I include, let's say, up to November 14th, a day after the murder, and the day when this case really hit the news, and there were massive amounts of searches for all 4 victims' names and stuff like that, then it would put, let's say, November 14th at the 100 level, right? And then it makes it more difficult to see all these other levels of searches leading up to the murders. So I've set it from June 5th all the way up to November 12th, the day before the murders. You can do this yourself as well. I will put the Google Trends link below for you. Go and have a look. What you can do is type in, so I typed in there, Maddie Mogen, Idaho. You can also just type in Maddie Mogen, Madison Mogen, and a whole different variety of names here. You could switch it up and it will give you all kinds of different results, which is why I say take it with a grain of salt. They're kind of similar results because, of course, you're looking at a person. So if you said Madison Mogen, Idaho, or just Madison Mogen, it's going to be similar results, but there's actually so many variables to look at with this, and you can chop and change things and compare things so many times that this is just, as I say, a brief overview and a speculation, if you will, that maybe somebody could have digitally stalked the victims beforehand. Maybe they knew them, maybe they were obsessed with 1, 3, maybe all 4 of them at some point. But let's just have a look at maybe who was Googled the most. Of course, that doesn't also have to mean it comes from one person. If you scroll down, you can see even the interest for Maddie Mogen, Idaho is from various places: New York, Idaho, Maine, Louisiana, Iowa. Of course, all these girls had Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts, Snapchat, social media, and everything. So you just don't know really who's behind the screens. How many times are these people looking them up? All we can see really in the trends is that there was a little bit of an uptick, after the girls had moved into that home, including an uptick in the searches for that home specifically, 1122 King Road, Idaho. Bethany, in all the searches I've done, has no searches. No one was searching, which is interesting, you see, because she's also got social media profiles. On June 5th, you can see already there, Ethan was searched, and it's not 30 times. It's a unit of 30 compared to the highest point. You see, the highest point is 100. That's where Ethan was searched a lot. And then you can see Kaylee was also searched a lot later. They are the 2 highest points that you can see on this graph. But if you look at these units, you can see Ethan was searched quite a lot, then Kaylee, and then Zaina. Ethan and Zaina also only started dating from the spring semester. So that's interesting to consider too. And then if we go a little further, you can see Zaina was searched a lot. Everybody else is 0. We go on some more. Then it's again Ethan. Again, as I say, this could be multiple people. It's just something, I'm just putting it out there as well, in case it helps at all. And the Grizzly that I've been talking to as well about these trends and everything has also sent it to the tip line, just in case. So if I keep going, then you see Maddie was searched, Kaylee, and if we just keep on going, Ethan was searched a lot, Maddie a lot on some days, Katie, and Zaina. Consistently, there's lots of searches happening for all 4 individuals. And then from around August, there's quite an uptick here, where you can see Zaina searched quite a bit, and then suddenly Ethan is searched a lot, and then Kaylee and Zaina, and then Maddie and Zaina and Kaylee. Ethan again, and we keep going. We could see then Kaylee. This was September 1st, 2022. And remember that incident from September 12th, where there was someone threatening students with a knife. So just remember that for September, Kaylee was searched a lot there. You see Maddie, Kaylee, lots with Ethan and Zaina. So I'm sure there's so much more we could analyze with these Google Trends. And here from the end of September, you could see a lot of searches for Zena. You know, in comparison to before, it's like increasing for Zena, always consistently searching Ethan and Zena and Kaylee, then Maddie and Ethan. October 29th, you can see Kaylee there a lot. Kaylee again, no one else. Kaylee again. And then Maddie and Kaylee. And then Maddie only. And then from November 10th, there's no one. November 11th, Ethan and Kaylee. And then Zena. What can we draw from this? I don't know. Except when I look at it, I can see that Ethan was really searched a lot as well. So it could flip things just a little bit in my mind that maybe the intended target, maybe it was Zena and Ethan. Maybe it's someone who once dated Zena or really liked Zena, was incredibly jealous that Ethan was dating her. You just don't know. And maybe Maddie and Kaylee knew about this incredible envy as well, which goes back to all those scenarios. I won't go over that all again. So if we just look at 1122 King Road, Idaho as well, and here again I took it from June 5th, which is actually from when the 5 girls moved in there. So Maddie, Kaylee, Zena, Bethany, and Dylan. Then what we could see is quite a bit of searches happening. You know, it's 58 units, so we don't know exactly how many searches that would be, but that would be 58 units there, and then consistently the house gets searched. So of course, students would be looking at it. Maybe they're also searching how to get there if they were going to go to a party there or visiting them or something. You just don't know. Looking at a future rental, it could be so many things. Then from August as well, you could see a big uptick there. That's at 100. And then consistently, it's pretty high. It's pretty high. The house is constantly searched, as you can see on Google. I mean, it's a unit of 40 on October 19th. And then again on October 25th. And then after that, nothing. So if I again, with just a grain of salt, had to speculate, maybe someone was digitally stalking them like a voyeur, like digital voyeurism. And then from October 26th or so, maybe they started going to the actual house and standing there in the woods looking at the house. Before I show you the map, I quickly want to go over this where they say the heinous scream murder of Cassie Jo Stoddart. A hit slasher had 2 teenage boys conspiring to extinguish a young girl's life and film it. Cassie Jo Stoddart was a 16-year-old high school student with a whole life ahead of her. She was a straight-A student who took school seriously. She didn't do much in the ways of extracurriculars, but was a friendly girl who was on good terms with just about everybody. Unfortunately, on September 22nd, 2006, her promising life was cut short. I'm going to link this article so you can read the whole case for yourself. But what I find interesting here is the video of the killers premeditating this, which was 2 boys, right? 2 friends. So just to quickly give you an overview, they say that day, Casey had been house sitting for her aunt and uncle several miles away from her own house in Pocatello, Idaho. She then invited her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, over for some company, and Matt brought along 2 friends, Tori and Brian. Unbeknownst to Matt, these friends would become savage killers in a matter of hours. So I just want to show you the video so that you can see how high school and or college students could actually fantasize about something like this and get quite a thrill out of a killing like this, like the Idaho 4, things like that. So let's have a look at that. This comes, of course, with a trigger warning. This is a true crime channel. If you find this case or any case I'm talking about way too triggering, don't tune in. All right, so have a look at this. So again, these are the killers talking the day before the murders.
Against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it more.
We found our victim, and sad as it may be, she's our friend. But you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie Stoddart. She's going to be alone in a big, dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? I mean, like, holy shit, dude.
I'm horny just thinking about it.
Hell yeah. It's 9:50, September 22nd, 2006. We know there's lots of doors. There's lots of places to hide. I locked the back doors. It's all locked. Now we just gotta wait. I just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke.
I'm shaking.
I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Oh, fuck. That felt like something real.
So you see what I mean. It's not so far-fetched to think of a young college dude or dudes. Of course, we still don't know if this is in the Idaho 4Ks, one killer or two, but just to hear this, it just gives me chills because they're talking so casually about something so gruesome and they're so excited afterwards. And as you heard, they say just thinking about it gets me horny. So, need I say more? And now, finally, for the map time. I know we've done this before, but what I wanted to show you was from 1122 King Road. Just look how absolutely close the Sigma Chi house is. It's literally across the road. I'll show you. We're going to go there now with our little Google man, and let's put him over here. That's the fraternity where Ethan Chapin lived. And if you just go this way, and you go up the road here, so just take a little drive up here. Okay, make another left, sorry, there we go. Now you're at the house. I mean, it's unbelievably close. It's just literally a stone's thrown away, like across this house, you're going to get to it. All right, so if I then track back, there is the fraternity, you see? That's where Zaina and Ethan went to a party before attending home. But again, you can see how very close that is. And there is speculation that Ethan and Zaina would have picked up Maddie and Kaylee based on a black 4-door sedan described by Joe, the tan-hat guy at the food truck video. I still don't know why Joe is saying that the girls left without paying for their food, because it appears that they paid in the beginning from what we saw in the video. Rewatch the video and let me know what you think. But it looks to me like they paid, so I don't know why he's saying they didn't. So that's a little bit interesting. But anyway, from there, it would also be within 2 miles. It's so super quick to get around here. Let me show you. If we go this way now, we're driving. Buckle up, everyone. Okay, so we are now driving little by little. I'm stopping every now and then so you can look around. We're going to turn left here, I think it is. Yep, turning left here. There's University of Idaho, Blake Street, and Taylor Avenue. Now we take a right. But still, look how close this is. It's a real quick drive. Straight to, the Corner Club, the Mad Greek restaurant, and the food truck area. So we're going straight now. Wait, I went a little bit too far. Gotta go this way. Yes. Sorry, buckle up, everyone. We're driving it now. And on the left here, I mean, there's pathways through the campus and everything, even shortcuts to get here. This is just the driving route. So we're going there, and now we're going to turn right. This is College Street. Now we're driving into oncoming traffic. I'm sure there's a way around. I just want to show you because they would have driven back this way, right? All right, so at this Wells Fargo Jackson Street, we already have enough Jacks in this case. If we go this way now, we're already now getting to where the food truck was. I'll show you now. Just look around quickly. Okay, we've got to go a little bit more. Which... No. Wait, turn around, turn around. It's this way. Yeah. This right here, this Hodgins is where the food truck is parked. I'll go a little bit closer like this so you can see. See, there's the stop. There's the sorry. See, there's this bus stop. Here's the corner that we saw the white hoodie guy walk around. Here's the garden lounge that they say they're parked near, and they would have literally been parked. If you remember this, the blue here. And the glass doors and everything, and we saw the reflection of the vehicle here, then the food truck is parked literally right here. So if you just turn around a little bit, the food truck is there, and you see where this green umbrella is? That's where the Mad Greek restaurant is. So from the food truck to the Mad Greek restaurant where Zaina and Maddie worked. Look here, I'll show you. It's so close. Here's the Mad Greek restaurant. You see it? Let's zoom in. This is the Mad Greek restaurant. And so it is still plausible that someone who either picked up their food there often or knew them there or worked there or worked anywhere close by or whatever could have already interacted with Maddie or Zaina here and at this point started watching them as targets. So again, there's the Mad Greek restaurant. So if I just turn around like this, this is where the food truck was parked. There you go. It's diagonally across the road, like so super close. You know, when we actually drive it like this, you could really see, huh? And then if we go to the corner club, you just go down here. Oh wait, I'm going the wrong way. It's just down this way. There it is. There is the corner club. So everything is so close to each other. So the corner club here where Maddie and Kaylee went, and then they would have probably just walked there to the food truck. They would have just walked to the food truck, and they probably went there quite often. Especially working at the Mad Greek restaurant, they would have known about the food truck, seen it quite often. But maybe that's also the thing to do, is to go to the corner club and then go and walk to the food truck there to get something nice and comforting before you go home. That Joe tan hat guy said that he was also at the corner club. He saw the two girls visibly drunk and even said out loud, "Ew," which I find interesting. And then he shared that he was 100% sober. Anyway, so the point is you can see how easy it is to walk to all these places, even from the house, to drive to all these places from the house. Super quick. Of course, as Kaylee's sister said, they did the right thing. They had the buddy system. They stuck together, of course. They got a ride home. Initially, the sister said Uber, but it's since been confirmed it's a private ride, which I would then imagine could be Ethan, because there is a black car parked outside the house. And if you look at all the cars, I think the red Jeep is Dylan's, one of the unharmed roommates. The white car seems to be Dylan's boyfriend's car, the one that, you know, the police were searching in as well. And then there is a black four-door car there. The Range Rover is there as well. So it could have been Ethan that picked them up. So, after all that, let me know what you think in the comments below, particularly with scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Let me know what your thoughts are. Of course, at this point, everything is speculation because we just don't know. The reason we do this, why do we cover the case, why do we speculate, is because we really want to raise awareness for the case and we want to help as much as possible. I believe that's our intention as content creators. I hope it's everyone's intention. If you want more updates from me, make sure that you are subscribed and hit the bell so that you'll see when I next upload or go live or something like that. I'll keep you posted on this case. I am also looking at the Michael Vaughan case and Quentin Simon and following that very closely, as well as some other cases. I got stuck in many rabbit holes in order to bring you this information today, of which I would say 80% I can't even verbalize. I can't even bring it to you because it's just so out there. There's so much in the trenches of Reddit, 4chan, Facebook, and everything else. But I hope that today's episode made sense. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please would you hit the thumbs up and share this episode. You can now share it with a hashtag. I see what's now being used is Idaho Homicides or Idaho 4. So that and Grizzly True Crime helps a lot to categorize everything so that it's all in one place and easy for people to find on social media. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Welcome to all the new Grizzlies. And I will see you again very soon. Stay safe.